Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all. Thank you for joining today's call. This is the first quarterly call for the African region. We are very pleased to have you. And today is February 19, 2020. This is the regular call that we organize with the Internet Society African community, our chapters, our individual members, to share updates and also strengthen relationship and engage with you in the work that we are accomplishing together. So I will quickly show you the agenda for today. So I will go ahead with the introduction. And we are also very pleased to have on this call Dr. Dawit Bekele, our Regional Bureau Director. He will give some welcome remarks, and he will also give an overview of our 2025 strategy and our 2020 action plan. And we are also very pleased to have on the call today our colleague Jane Coffin, for our Senior Vice President for Internet Grow. He has with her our colleague, subject matter expert on for our Internet Growth focus area. This call today will mostly focus on Internet Growth. So as you can see, we have more time to talk about our project in that focus area. We have two guest chapters that will share the 2020 action plan. Thank you for accepting to doing that, our colleague from Namibia and Tanzania. Then we quickly share some community engagement updates. And lastly, we will share with you the funding opportunities for 2020. So on this, without further ado, I will hand over to Dawit for the welcome remarks.
Thank you, Victor, and welcome to this regular meeting that we have every 3 months approximately. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and discuss about what we have done as well as what we are doing. Such a call is especially important at the beginning of the year because this is an opportunity to tell you what we are planning so that you know and you help us because at ISOC we believe that we do everything together. So it's an opportunity for us to tell you what we're doing, what we're planning, and then it's also up to you to come back to us and support us, whether it is at national or at global level. Next, please. I start with sad news. I don't know how many of you know, but I know Dr. Lala for a very long time. He was a very important person for the internet in Madagascar and in Africa. Very sadly, we lost him just a few weeks ago. So I would like to ask a minute of silence in his memory. Okay, I think we can continue. For those of you who know him, I think there is somewhere where you can write a few words and maybe Victor, you can share that link so that people can write in the book, in the virtual book that has been prepared in his memory.
Thank you, Dawit.
Okay, so what is our vision? It has not changed. So as I believe everybody knows, our vision is that the internet is for everyone. Next, please. Our mission, the Internet Society supports and promotes the development of internet as a global technical infrastructure, a resource to enrich people's lives, and a force for good. So it is important here to know that we don't want the internet just for the sake of the internet, but we want to make sure that it really enriches people's life and it does good to people. Next, please. Our work aligns with our goals for the internet to be open, globally connected, secure, and trustworthy. And for that, we see collaboration with all who share these goals. Okay, so these are very important, very big goals, and we know that we cannot achieve them by ourselves. That's why our community, that means you and our organizational members, individual members, as well as partners, are very important to achieve these goals. Next, please. So our strategy for 2025 has three main areas. First of all, we want to build the internet. What does it mean? It means extending the internet to those who do not have it yet and who need it most. As you know, I think by now, half of the world has access to the internet, but the other half does not. And the other half needs it maybe even more than the first half. So we want to make sure that the other half gets it. We want to promote the internet so that that the internet model is sometimes attacked. We want to make sure that everybody is convinced that it is the preferred model. We want to convince governments to adopt the policies that support this model, and we want the technologies that are deployed to use the protocols that secure interconnection of independent networks. And third, we want to defend the internet. As I said, the internet is sometimes more and more attacked. And for that, it needs an organization such as the Internet Society to defend it by helping shape the policies of key governments so that they are in favor of the growth of independent networks which are free to interconnect. We want to attempt to counter attempts by key governments that like to undermine encryption. And this is also a very important area because, as you know, we are, we can securely exchange information on the internet, to access our bank account, but also for other private issues because there is encryption. But currently, it is under attack, and not only by the governments that do not support the internet model. Even those who have been supporting the internet model for a long time are currently sometimes attacking encryption, and we want to make sure that this doesn't go too far. We wanted to defend against shutdowns by increasing cross-border connectivity and resiliency. And Africa is unfortunately an area, a region where there is a lot of shutdowns, and we want to make sure that those shutdowns, we have less and less, thanks to more connectivity and resiliency. Next, please. So what is our action plan 2020, which is based, of course, on the strategic plan? We have three major axes. The first one, well, the three major axes, these are for the strategic plan, but for the 2020 action plan, we have two major areas. The first one is internet growth, and the second one is stronger internet. Jane is here to talk about, I guess, all the projects, but she's responsible of the internet growth area. And under these major areas, we have 8 different projects. So the whole organization will be working for the whole year on those 8 projects only. As you might remember, we had many more projects in the past. That was quite complicated for us and probably for you and other external parties, because it was nobody could remember all the projects by heart. So now we wanted to have focused projects so that we can be sure that we implement those projects and we implement them well with, of course, our partners. So the first project is building community networks. The second, fostering infrastructure and technical communities. And the third, within the internet growth, is measuring the internet. And then we have, under stronger internet, promoting the internet way of networking, securing global routing, extending encryption, increasing time security, and open standards everywhere. So we want to have tangible works that can make difference so that the internet is bigger, it means gets to more people, and is stronger, so that we have an open, globally connected, secure, and trustworthy internet for everyone. Next, please. Okay, I think this is Jane who continues from here.
Yes, Dawit, thank you very much. So as I mentioned in the beginning, today's call will mostly focus on the internet growth focus area. So on that, we have our Senior Vice President for Internet Growth, Jane. So over to you, Jane.
Thank you very much. We're going to share the screen from the room that we're in. We're here in Geneva in the office, and with me are Max and Juan, who are with our community networks team. On the call, you've got Michuki and Mwangi with the infrastructure and community development team, and Matt Ford was going to be with us from the measurements team, but I'm going to run through his portfolio. And so what we wanted to do today is just give you a quick overview of the project areas for internet growth. So we're going to share that in 1 second. But welcome, everyone. Some of you know me, some of you may not. I've been working at the Internet Society since about 2012, but in the infrastructure development space since 1998. The 3 projects that you're going to see in a second, excellent. And thank you for your patience, are related to building the infrastructure and the communities to support them. And so part of what we're really keen to do with you here today is give you this overview, allow for some Q&A, and let you know that we're really interested in hearing from chapters about what we can do with you in the future, where it's a community forward approach, where we want to support, strengthen, and help with capacity development in the future, not only for our projects on the ground, but also with all of you. Next slide. Excellent. So this is a picture that one of the colleagues in the room, Leah Kiesling, who is our key communications lead for the internet growth portfolio with us on community networks and IXPs in specific. is a slide that Leah put in a deck we were using internally, and we really want to show the importance of the people working with all of you to build capacity, but all of the great work that you do in the region. And it is what we believe, quite frankly, that when people come together and work in the internet way, which is network to network and humans to humans, great things can happen. So next slide. Our agenda quickly is I'm going to show you the different projects, and then Max and Juan are going to speak on community networks, infrastructure, Michuki, measuring the internet. I'll jump in there and we'll have Q&A, and next steps is something we'll work with you, all of you, Victor, Dawit, Michuki, and the team on. So there are three big projects under internet growth. One is community networks, which many of you may be aware of. Networks built for, by, with communities, from the communities out, where people don't have access in underserved rural remote areas or even urban underserved areas. The second project is infrastructure and community development, otherwise known as Internet Exchange Points and NOGs for short, but infrastructure and community development was the name that the team decided on because it captures more of what we're trying to do. It's not just IXPs, but it's that infrastructure, both human and technical. Measuring the internet, this is about how we look at measurements across the world where teams are doing those measurements on internet health and different case studies that we can work on to show evidence-based and data for policymaking and decision-making. Next slide. From our action plan, which there's a link in the slide deck here, we all know that the internet does continue to grow around the world, but not evenly. It's very uneven. Over 49% of the world is not connected. Our efforts are aimed at increasing reach and reliability of the internet, but also ensuring the foundations for continued growth are solidly in place. We're going to do this through the projects based in the internet growth portfolio that I just mentioned, the community networks and internet exchange points. We're also launching this new project, which is the measurements project. We're bringing together multiple different measurements from different teams. We're not trying to replicate the work being done by organizations around the world, but to showcase it. We'll have an observatory eventually, and I'll talk about that in a minute when we get to the project. Next slide. The team is, I'm helping, they're really running the projects. I'm trying to do my best to help develop the teams, bring things forward, and help keep us on track from the executive side of the house. Max and Juan are here on community networks, Michuki and Dawit and Christian. Christian O'Flaherty is a staff person from Latin America who's recently been promoted to be the regional vice president for Latin America. So he's transitioning the work to Dawit, but Michuki, Dawit, and Christian are a great trio here. And measuring the internet, Matt Ford and David Belson. So next, I'm going to turn this over to Max on community networks.
Hello, everyone. I'm a sort of a newcomer for you. Someone is talking over me. Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry. I'm relatively new here, so hi to everyone. I joined the Internet Society in the last July to work as the technical expert for the European region. And then most recently, I started leading the project for community networks together with Juan, who's actually sitting next to me and will appear in the video. Here he is. What are we talking about when we say community networks? Can we go ahead? Yes, we talk about connecting the unconnected, which is a very, very broad, has a very, very broad meaning, but it means looking for all the opportunities where people have issues with their connectivity, or they're not served by any service provider, or the service they get is too expensive or has continuous issues. And working with the people, with the local communities, to develop a better service, to develop coverage in the area. And how do you do this? You do this via what we started calling local champions. So people who step up and decide to take the lead and say, I want to do something for my local community. I want to do something for the region, the area where I live. and I want to bring internet connectivity, because we all know that nowadays, if you're not served by internet service, your area suffers under many aspects. Can be looking at the GDP, at work opportunities, at missed businesses, and so on. So there is a plus in stepping up and doing something for your own community. So what does this mean when someone steps up, when someone comes up? Next. We have thought about 4 stages. The first one that we should look at is the engagement. So through the project that you will see next, so the what's called what some people call internet exchanges, but it's actually called community and infrastructure development. We have the opportunity to go to meetings, to talk to people, to meet with people who are willing to do something. And then we start a process that begins with policy. So looking at what is the policy environment in the country, looking at what are the opportunities for setting up a local network there. And if everything's fine, we go ahead. If not, we have a team, we have experts. One of them is actually Juan, who can help the local champions talk to the government, talk to the regulator or regulators, trying to change the situation, try to make it so that there is a better environment for community networks to develop them. So after this, or also in parallel with this, we can start with training. So what we do is help understanding how the technology works, help understanding what the policy environment can be. And via training, we start developing not only one, but the goal is always to try to make to bring up a group of local champions, like a group of people with dedication, with knowledge, with capacity for establishing the network, for maintaining it. And so after this, the very last step is the deployment. And that's what I like to call the icing on the cake, because this only can come when all the other pieces are tied together. As you can see, I wanted to show it in a puzzle, because everything has to be working together. So where have we started? Where have this happened already? Next. We have successful CNs in Georgia, in Kyrgyzstan, in Argentina, in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in Greece. So as you can see, there's global coverage. We haven't put any successful one in Asia Pacific, but just because the space wouldn't have let us do it. But there are also plenty of success cases that we could show you from that region as well. But as you can see, this has global coverage. We go from Hawaii, from the very north of the world in Canada, to Europe, to Central Asia, Africa, and everything. So as you can see, there is an opportunity pretty much everywhere if there is the willingness to do something. And we're here to help. So if you have any idea, you can talk to Victor, you can talk to Dawit, you can talk also to me and Juan, to Jane, anyone at ISOC, to ask to be helped with this. I have to tell you beforehand, it's not a quick and easy process. In many cases, it's a multi-year project, but there can be great satisfaction out of it, and there can be great outcomes. So we forgot to put it in the puzzle, but there is also a small component that we are developing this year. And I know Juan really, really wanted me to add it, and then I forgot, and it's the measurements. So we're building, to not be confused with the project that you will hear about in a moment, a small component where we try to measure the impact of a community network in an area, in a country, in a town, or a city. So that is also part of what we're going to do in 2020. We do have a series of projects that are already either started or ongoing or are ready to go, and we're trying to push them to start as soon as possible for this year. But if you if you want to know more, there is a link that Victor just pasted. And if you also want to know more, again, talk to Victor, talk to Dawit, make sure that they know there is an opportunity in your country, in your region, in your area. And this is it. So I'll be waiting for questions later on.
And next up is Michuki. Michuki, can you help us with infrastructure and community development?
Yes,
I should note for everyone, the picture on the slide is one Michuki can describe to you from a recent deployment.
Yes, so thank you, Jen, and good afternoon to most of you. I believe for a few people it's still morning. My name is Michuki Mwangi. I think we've had an opportunity to meet with some of you in previous calls, and looking forward to continuing that engagement in 2020. So under the infrastructure and community development, we shall continue focusing on some of the areas that we've spent probably the last decade building, and this is looking at network operator groups, and also building communities that a good example is NOGs, or network operator groups, and also IXPs. The photo you see there is the launch of the Lubumbashi IXP, which is the second internet exchange point in DRC. That happened in October or November last year. Which was done in partnership with one of partners, Facebook, and also the Kinshasa Internet Exchange Point, which is run by the ISP Association of DRC, which is ISPA. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So what do we aim to do under infrastructure and community development? One of the things that experience has showed us is that when you have strong critical infrastructure, well-trained, capable local technical communities, they provide that basic foundation that is necessary and needed to build a better internet infrastructure. So basically, a lot of the times we've gone to many countries, we've observed that if you have a strong community of people who understand BGP, know how to do routing, setting up the IXP becomes something that is relatively straightforward to do, and the community fully understand what needs to get done. At the same time, NOGs have played a key role in facilitating these kind of capacity building activities that we've engaged with, and it spans beyond just routing. We also do system administration and so on and so forth. And that provides the community with the requisite skill sets that are needed to build and run networks across the entire country. And you do not have a deficit in terms of the skill sets needed to run good internet access. At the same time, we've also understood that having these local communities help develop the internet ecosystems of much broader. And the way we see this is that if you look at countries that have these strong communities that are well organized, you'll find that the discussions that take place now will try to cover all the other areas where emerging issues are being identified. And so you will find some countries will start focusing about AI, you'll start talking about IoT, they'll start talking about all the other areas that are emerging as the internet develops. At the same time, for us at the Internet Society, we find that this also makes it much possible for us to go in and engage on other topics. So for instance, a country with a thriving internet exchange point becomes a very useful place for us to engage with issues related to routing security like manners and or time security and so on and so forth. So if you could go to the next slide, I would like to talk about some of the things that we are hoping to achieve this year. We are looking to work more with active NOGs and help create NOGs in countries where there are none. We're also happy to engage and continue supporting existing NRENs and also see how we can support countries that have NRENs that are emerging. We also want to make sure that IXPs continue to be more effective and sustainable as we progress, meaning that they're growing both in numbers, traffic, and also their operating models. We also want to make sure that we continue engaging at the global level, providing support to various partners and organizations that help us advance the overall project. If you could go on to the next slide, I will briefly talk about how we plan to implement all these, or to achieve all these goals or objectives that I've just mentioned. Capacity building still remains one of the key areas that we will continue exploring and working on. By exploring, I mean we will be looking at developing new materials in various areas where we see gaps. So, for instance, we're going to do training course for internet that is specific to IXPs, so that IXPs know how to run their IXPs better. Then we'll also continue delivering on some of the materials that we have, and also working with partners to deliver more capacity building. And not to forget mentioning the online training courses that we have. And I think I'd seen my colleague Kevin Chege, who some of you have worked with for quite some time on delivering the online courses. We're also going to continue working on community building, making sure that we support the development of the critical communities that provide that local platform, which is necessary to advance the discussions to facilitate other developments that need to happen beyond capacity building. We are also going to support IXPs with infrastructure development, provide them with switches as they grow. They're growing pretty fast. There's a lot of local content being readily available. So with switches, fiber optical transceivers, servers, and so on. And we'll also be working with NRENs as well to see how to support them. We will continue exploring our partnerships in terms of how to engage more at the local level, sub-regional level, and the regional level. And some of those partnerships will help us be able to deliver more on capacity building, infrastructure development, and also implementing other areas of our projects, like pursuing issues related to routing security and so on. And finally, as I mentioned, global engagement is something that is key to us. Some of you, I'm not sure whether you know, there is one tool called IXP Manager, which is the only open source IXP management tool. And we support it as an organization because it's used by more than 100 internet exchange points worldwide. And so we would like to continue those kind of engagements that help IXPs to do better or to provide better services. If we go on to the next slide, I think I will conclude before I conclude, just saying that under the infrastructure community development project, we've tried to scale our work into regions. So we've scaled out across the 6 different regions. Africa, you will see that we have Sub-Saharan Africa, if I could put it that way, and North Africa, which lies between Africa and the Middle East. And by and large here, it's more of a language issue than anything else. So we do have a strong team that is based out of Egypt that will be providing support, but we will also be working very closely with them with all the capacity building and collaboration and support that they need in the north. So we do tend to cluster the Middle East with North Africa, but largely because of the Arabic language, but we do tend to do a lot of work there as well. Finally, if you could go to the last slide, I think the one thing which I would like to encourage the chapters to do is to think about how we can work with you. I've just put a couple of bullet points there where you can think about areas where we can engage with you. We would like to explore this further, looking at capacity building, continue mobilizing the cohorts for the online courses as you've done in the past. And also let us know where you see capacity building gaps that are aligned to our 8 projects this year, and we can see how best to develop new materials to address or to bring more awareness in those topics. We are also looking to do more on community building, so please continue doing what you've been doing in mobilizing the local community to set up NOGs or the IXPs. And we also hope to continue working with you in some countries. I know we've worked with the chapter. I think in Guinea, I've seen my friend Mamadou. Here, we've worked with him in mobilizing the community to organize a local peering events. And finally, also in reviewing the policy engagement and outreach front, where we collaborate with local stakeholders to review the existing policies and to make sure that it favors interconnection, infrastructure development, data center, cross-border interconnection, and so on and so forth. So with that, I would like to stop there. I think I've taken more time than I needed to, so happy to hand over to Jane. Thank you.
Thank you, Michuki. That was fabulous. So the third project in the portfolio is Measuring the Internet. Next slide. And Matt Ford and David Belson are the 2 leading on the project from the staff side. The project came about with some questions that we've been asking internally. Oops, can you go back up one? Sorry, back down. Yep. No, it skipped again. Sorry. There, perfect. You want to bridge the gap between academic networking research and non-scientific audiences. Matt, if you were on the call, would tell you this isn't a science experiment. We're trying to really take a look at how to take measurement information and make it more mainstream, understandable, and usable across different audiences. We're looking at standalone resources exist, but are often focused on a specific aspect of internet infrastructure driven by commercial interests. And so we're keen to raise ISOC's profile as a trusted source of information about the internet, make good relevant data interpretations easier to find, share, and reuse, and to help to inform and support other internet society projects. So measuring the internet, what? Provide a single location for multiple measures of internet evolution and health, and an internet measurement dashboard infographics. This is sort of the observatory I mentioned earlier, likely to be launched in Q3. As Matt has said to us and others, it's not a science project. We want to tell stories with data, support non-scientific audiences in understanding measurement data, and provide context for the numbers in a timely, responsive, and interactive way. So how are we going to do this? We're going to do this by looking at use cases. As Dawit had mentioned earlier, internet shutdowns are something we really want to be able to put more information around as to the impact of those shutdowns, both from a socio and an economic perspective, what it means for citizens, what it means for your economy. We want to take a look at enabling technologies so that we can explain why they're so important, particularly open standards, another thing that we're working on as well. The Internet Way of Networking is one of the projects under the Internet Strong portfolio, and we want to make sure that we're helping that team with as much data as possible, so that when we're working with policymakers and regulators, we can explain sort of why closing off your infrastructure in a walled garden is maybe not the best way forward, but from network to network. Internet resilience is a special project. Kevin Chege is going to be working quite closely with the team on this, and I think leading on it for internet resilience, the importance of redundancy, resiliency, cross-border connectivity, and put facts to sort of the conversation. We plan to work in the community. We're supporting the RightsCon event in 2020 in Costa Rica. We work closely with the Internet Research Task Force. We're working closely with the Internet Measurement Conferences through ACM. and any other events that are appropriate. This is where we would love to hear back from you if you think there are other things that we can participate in. We plan to, of course, work with great partners like CADA, who's doing work, the regional internet registries, Oracle through some work that they're doing on trace routes and graphics that can show when the shutdowns are taking place and when and where. And we're going to look and consume and process third-party data. So we're not going to try and speak for other people, but use the data to show and why measuring the health of the internet is important. Next slide. With respect to internet resilience in Africa, Kevin, I know I didn't ask you to jump in, but do you want to speak to this slide? Kevin Chege?
Yes, Kevin Chege. Thank you, Jane, for the slide. I'll speak briefly about the internet resilience for Africa. So we're working on this as a part of the measurement project and focusing particularly on Africa, trying to come up with a way to measure resilience in a couple of select countries and provide sort of information that or data that can be used by policymakers, internet users, and the ISP or measurement community to make a stronger case for why certain infrastructures should be improved so that the internet availability or reliability in their areas can improve. So the deliverables here are we're going to work on a measurement framework and a dashboard which will have which will allow internet users to report downtimes and also generate reports on availability and reliability. It's all sort of in draft mode at the moment. So in the coming few weeks, this will be finalized, and I'll be happy to share this with our communities.
Thank you, Kevin. And the potential for chapter involvement, and these are just some ideas to throw out. There's nothing that's carved in stone or is concrete, but we want to brainstorm through Victor and the different project teams. We'd love feedback on early deployment prototypes when we're ready to help shape the platform so that it's useful and impactful in reaching our target audiences. On shutdowns, we'd love any feedback on accounts on the on-the-ground impact from all of you. This is the good anecdotal information, often known as indirect impact information. We're really keen to collect more data about the impact on any of you if you're in a country where you find the internet's got down for a couple of days or there's been an intervention. On resilience, we're keen to deploy probes to help expand the measurement infrastructure in Africa, to contribute to the case studies and document the reality and impact of internet resilience in specific countries. And of course, to raise awareness of the measurements portal as a resource to help understanding of the growth and evolution of the internet in Africa and around the world. Next slide. And that's, and sorry, no strategy will succeed without the commitment of extraordinary people like you. So we want you to join us in some of this work. So this is an invitation, and we will figure out how best to do this through Victor to try and bring you into more and more of the work so that it's a great partnership with some of the chapters on the Internet Growth Portfolio. We thank you very much for your attention. And I think, Victor, do we have time for some Q&A?
Yes, definitely, Jane.
I see one question about criteria for choosing countries. There will be some criteria, and we will let you know what those are going to be. And it's not the same as internet consolidation. This is more on when there are shutdowns actually taking place versus consolidation in the infrastructure and the industry.
And there is also one question on asking if we are engaging businesses or telco ISPs in our work to connect the unconnected. So.
We absolutely work with different internet service providers, content delivery networks, when we're working to develop internet exchange point infrastructure. We also are working with different providers when it comes to community networks to see if there are innovative ways to help with last mile, or what I would love to call first mile connectivity, creative ways to look at interconnection and backhaul. So there are definitely going to be opportunities to work with industry. Industry often has great data as well. And that's something that I'm sure that Matt and David are going to be exploring on how to get some really good statistics and information from partners on the ground.
One question also from Herbert.
I just want to ask this question. Is there any way or policies that we can lay down for government and other agencies who are ISPs agencies that will make us to be able to trace all things that are being uploaded? There should be a kind of a standard rules that will be transparent, that will make us to be able to trace every user connected, even involving all these CDMAs and all these carrier networks.
So
that make us to know
it's a very
everyone connected.
Okay, it's a very interesting question. There's a lot that would be involved there with privacy and user rights. So it's something we could definitely explore with you a bit more on a use case. So this is a great example of where your information and potential feedback, Kevin and I can take this back to Matt and David, and perhaps we can work with you on this because it sounds interesting, but we'd have to take a look at what the broader implications would be.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jane. I know the time is running. As I said, I share my email, and all other questions I can transfer them to Jane and her team. So feel free to send me your questions and other further comments.
Victor Maimouna from Senegal.
Yes, Maimouna, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. I really did not have a question. I want just to know that to say that it is important that ISOC work with local chapter and also government who have the responsibility to draw policy and bring internet to everyone, and to have to question how we can work with local stakeholders to achieve our mission. I think it's important. We in Senegal, we try to work with the government, with the private sector, and to run some projects together, but it's not easy. And I would like also to say a few words about Lala. Lala was a good friend of mine, and we worked together at several occasions, especially at Afrinic, at ISOC, at CCTLD, ICON, and it's a big. It's sad really to lose a kind of engaged people, and I really give my support to his family and all the community. I would like also to ask for the African community to your support because I'm nominated at the board of SERS of ISOC, and I would like to count on your support, your solidarity, and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mai. So we can move quickly to the next point. As I said in the beginning, this is a two-way conversation. We also want to hear from our chapter what they are planning to do at the local level. So on this, we have just two quick interventions from our Namibia chapter and Tanzania chapter. So I see NASA in the call. So if you can quickly go ahead and share what you will be doing at the local level. NASA from the Tanzania chapter.
Okay, I have a question. My name is Peter Mbando from ISOC Tanzania. I have a question concerning the sustainability of the community networks in Africa, even in other places in Africa. I think when I realized that in Kondoa, there is a lot of opportunities that people can use the community network, even to engage in small-based enterprises or businesses. But also it can be used to generate some income from those content advertisement that the CN, the Kondoa Community Network can do. So right now it has been stopped because of the huge amount of money they are supposed to pay to the operator, mobile operator. So the thinking, we can come up with marketing or advertisement or a way that can help these community networks to come up with generating incomes wherever they are, so that once we give kind of, we say, philanthropic or corporate social responsibility, we must change into corporate social impact. We create impact, but even if it is for free, but the operators or the region can be used for advertisement, local advertisement to generate some income. That's what I sort of.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think this is a very good question. Michuki and our Jane and her team. I think the question is.
Yeah, Victor,
we
it's
can
an
definitely
excellent question.
Yes.
Yeah, we can definitely come back to Peter. And I think the simple answer, Peter, is we do want networks to be sustainable. It depends on the region, the locality, and your community of interest. We're committed to the training and the different hybrid models that may exist, like the one in Senzaleni in South Africa, which is both quasi-commercial on one side and then nonprofit on another. But Michuki, you were there in Kondoa. Do you want to add anything?
Yes. So one of the important things that we shared with the community in Kondoa during the 4th Community Network Summit that was held last year in October was the fact that the community needs to come together to develop a business model. It needs to have a sustainability model that is agreed upon by all the stakeholders in the CN. And only then can there be a way out in identifying what the method or the methodology they are going to use to sustain the operations. And until that discussion has been had, it is difficult to implement sustainability. And so we hope that based on those conversations, the team in Kondoa is actually taking a path to sort of reach a point where they have a sustainability model and a plan in place.
Thank you very much, Michuki. And I think I will also encourage our Tanzania chapter to truly see how you can continue to work in partnership with the Kondoa Community Network to continue to find ways to make it sustainable. So I'm just trying to quickly also share here as also how we are planning to engage our community during 2020, our African chapter individual members. So we'll continue with regular quarterly call like this one. So every quarter we will update you on what we are doing, but also hear about what you are doing at the local level and how we can continue to better work together. So one also important program that was launched this year is the chapter training program. So it's truly a way to equip chapter with knowledge, empower them to fully understand the project that we are working on together in 2020 and see how they can translate the goal, the objective of the project in local concrete activities and local impact. So the program is ongoing. I believe the call for trainees was launched some few days ago. So and the deadline is coming, I believe, February 25th. So work with your chapter coordinator to apply. And this year also we'll have the traditional chapter advisory advocacy meeting. This is where we bring at least once every year representative from all our chapter to a face-to-face meeting on advocacy, but also on empowering them to for better impact at the local level. Also, as most of you know, we organize ISOC at key event in Africa, like ISOC at the African Internet Summit or the African IGF, where we give opportunity to the ISOC community to network and share updates. Very important also, I share in the chat, and Jane, Dawit mentioned the involvement of chapter in the project, also not only chapters as entity, but all the individual members. And this is important for you to log into the membership portal and update your profile, and also express interest in any project that you believe is relevant to you and your country. And lastly, we will continue a pilot program that we started last year on visiting the chapter, getting to know your local environment in order to improve and strengthen our relationships. One of the key important things that I would like to also share with you, I believe funding is key to our chapter. Most of you really, it's challenging to get funding to implement your activities. So, and the Internet Society is aware of that, and we, as usual, will continue in 2020 to provide financial support to chapter to implement local activity and project. And most of you know we now have the Internet Society Foundation, through which most of the funding opportunity will go through. I believe I have on the call my colleague from the foundation, Brittany. Maybe she can just share some quick update on the funding opportunities and the upcoming call that will happen. I believe one is today and the other one next 2 days.
Yeah. Hi, Victor.
Yes, Brittany.
Hi, Victor. Hi, everyone. This is Brittany with the Internet Society Foundation. I realize we're over time, but we do, as Victor mentioned, have a series of 3 calls coming up, which will cover specifically the funding and the training available to chapters this year. You should have all received the email, but I'm putting the information in the thread right now, and so you can register for those calls. The slide that is currently up is the kind of highlights of the training opportunities that we have for chapters in 2020, as well as the funding. So training will focus on kind of how to apply for a grant, how to determine whether kind of a project idea or a program is having impact, how to measure that, how to communicate those stories, and how to build a sustainability strategy beyond just Internet Society Foundation funding. Because as Victor mentioned, we're aware that chapters are looking for funding for their great ideas, and we want to ensure that we provide you those resources. In terms of funding opportunities, like last year, we have Beyond the Net Small, which will open the first week of April, and then Beyond the Net Large, which is grants up to $30,000 US over 24 months, which will open the second week of April. For the moment, all the details about both those programs are up on our website, and I put the link to the ISOC Foundation website in the thread as well. So if you're looking for details on when funding is available, what we're funding, what we're looking for in terms of that funding, it's all up there. And then please join the calls, and we'll go into that in far more detail.
Thank you very much, Brittany. This was very quick, and you can also just see the quick summary here. And the 2 others I will just mention here is the chapter admin funding program that will continue this year, where all qualified chapter receive up to $3,000 for their to support the administrative and operating costs. And one of the last program also that will continue this year is the Chapterthon, where it's a global competition among chapter, and it is also a funding opportunity because chapter receive up to $2,000 to implement a small project. Also, winner will get a prize at the end. So we are truly 7 minutes on top of the hour. But it was very important to allow interaction after Jane and her team But I believe many questions we can continue via email, and I will always, I'm available to connect you with Michuki, Ruan, Max, or Jane herself to continue conversation on additional issue that you may have. So on this, I would like to hand over to Dawit.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for all of you who have taken 1 hour and 10 minutes from your time to come and participate and to listen to the exciting activities that you have for this year. Thank you also for my colleagues who have come to talk about their projects and to tell you how you can also participate in those projects. So it's an exciting year ahead, and I really want you to be involved at local as well as regional level in these projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you all, and see you on the internet.